Hey guys, this is just a short tutorial on how to make preferences plugins for Cinema 4D. If you use the scripted console a lot, one of the more annoying things that people do is add text to it when they're building their plugins. Now this text is there just as a double check to make sure that the plugin is loaded, but after that text comes up a few dozen times, it starts to get annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a preferences plugin that will clear the console of that text every time that Cinema 4D launches so that you don't see that text. Now because that is still useful and plugin makers put that there for a reason, and it's something that you don't want to just kill completely, a preferences plugin is a good choice for this because you can toggle it on or off to either see the text or not see the text. So that's what I'm going to put in my example. Now I don't happen to have Visual Studio installed at the moment on my computer, so I'm going to open the source code for the plugin in Notepad++. You guys would normally be opening this up in Visual Studio. So here's the code. It's really small. It's like 100 lines of code. I'm not going to go through it line by line because I've got notes in it that explain what every section does. I guess the most important parts of it are these get D parameter and set D parameter, which sort of store the state of your gadget inside the preferences so that it stays that way whether you shut down Cinema 4D and then reload it. They'll stay the same. They won't automatically be reset back to some default state. In your init values code, you can set something to always be true or always be false or always have a value if that's something you want to do. But typically when you're using a preferences plugin, you want to set something and then you want that to stay there until you change it again, even if you shut Cinema 4D down and reopen it again. Okay, so here's the code. You guys can look through it, see what does what. It's really tiny. You should have no problems understanding what it does. But the one thing that I do want to point out in this plugin is the main CPP file. There's a section, a case in the plugins message function that I've added that you don't normally see in your main CPP files that come with the SDK. This right here, this program started function, or option I guess you call it, and this is where I've told it to look for the plugin using the plugin's ID number. And just so you guys know, I'm using a testing ID number. This isn't something that you should use in your commercial plugins. You guys should know this already. This should be old hat. So make sure that you change this. You go to the cafe and you get a real serial number and you change it for this. And make sure that you're changing it in two spots. Make sure you change it here and make sure you change it here so everything matches. So all this does is looks for your plugin, and then it gets the gizmo. I've got a checkbox gizmo in there, and I've given that checkbox an ID number of 5001. No reason for that number. I just picked it. I just picked it out of the air. You guys can make this whatever you want. And then I'm getting the value from that checkbox, and then I'm staying here. If the value is true, if the checkbox is enabled, then run this call command, and this call command just clears the console of any text that's in there. This is what actually does the job. Now, you don't have to write a plugin for this. You could add this code here and then just add the call command to it in the main CPP file in your SDK examples. And what it would do, it would wipe out the text every time you launched Cinema 4D, so you don't get that annoying text that we were talking about that plugin makers add to their plugins. The problem is there's no on or off option. It's all the time. It'll kill the text all the time, which you might need. You really might want to have the option of checking if this plugin loaded or not. So that's why we're using it in a preferences plugin. Okay, so I have Cinema 4D open, and if I go into Edit Preferences, here's where you'll find the custom preferences. This is the new one that the plugin adds, and there's a checkbox in here called Clear Console. If I check that, the next time I close down Cinema 4D and reopen it, any text that gets put in here by a plugin maker will now not be seen. You won't see it anymore, and you won't get pissed every time you open the console and have to hit the clear button But it's nice to have that, like I said, it's nice to have this option where you can turn it on and turn it off, and you're not killing it completely. So it's still there. We haven't totally taken that option away from you. You can find this Preferences plugin with the rest of my plugins here on my Google site, and you'll find it right here. And that's it, we're done.